are planning on going live a little early, so if I get to you in time, that's awesome. We're just a few minutes ahead of schedule, but we're excited to get our meeting started tonight. So as you're coming in, if you want, you can make a comment there. The comments are wide open, so tell me that you're here. Tell me your name. Tell me what instrument you play, or if you're a parent, tell me your name. Tell me what instrument your child plays. But we're very excited to have you guys here, and this won't be too terribly long of a meeting. But again, start checking in. I see lots of you already here. I'm gonna post just here before we start in the comments section for you. I'm gonna post a link to a little bit about the presentation you're gonna see, so that if you want to have a PDF version of it, you can. So there is that link in Google Drive. And hello, Xander. Thank you for joining, Mr. Slovak. Hello, Lindsay Flute. Hello. Frinchie, hello. And Wayne Alou, hello. Clarinet Power. Excited to see all of you here. So we'll get started here on our presentation in just a minute. Oh, wow, look at all these people checking in. My goodness. So just so I don't want you to think that I'm crazy. I have another monitor up here. So if you see me do this, I'm not staring into space or lost or anything. I'm just trying to keep track. The comments are there, but the broadcast is down here. So if you think I'm losing it, well, I probably am, but I'm glad to have all of you joining us. Let's see. Hello, Andrew and Yash and Mr. and Mrs. Snyder, I see, and Stephen and Caleb and Harper and Nadia and Daniel, saxophone. Hello, Marcus and Avani. Glad we have so many friends joining us tonight. I figure we're going to have a whole lot of folks with us. Hopefully our stream health holds out tonight and everything stays great, but in case it doesn't, have no fear. When I start the meeting, I'm going to record it, so if we lose something. But we've done a meeting this large maybe one other time. We did our pre-leadership training using OBS and YouTube live, and we had about 160 to 180 people on that one, and it seemed to work really well. So hopefully tonight goes off without a hitch. But this will be one of the larger few meetings that we've had that we're streaming this way. All right, let's see who else is joining us. Hello, Miss Osborne. Miss Osborne is one of our assistant principals at Coppell High School. She oversees fine arts. You'll get to meet her, I'm sure. And Sumil, hello, and Aditi, and Akshat, and Rohan, and Daniel, and Alex. Let's see, is that Tanmay? I hope I did that right. You can correct me later if I was wrong. I promise I'll start right on time. Again, as you're coming in, it's always good to see your name, so check in. And I'll try and say hi to as many of you as I can as you're all hopping online. Tonight we're going to cover, as I mentioned, you're probably have to scan up in the comments. Maybe I'll repost it now. But I have a PDF of everything being covered tonight so that you can either follow along with us if you'd like. But you're also welcome to just have it for later use as you're referencing dates or times or things of that nature. Well, it looks like we are right at 7. So because this is live cast and if somebody joins us late, they can always jump back. I think I'm going to jump right into our presentation with all of you. So again, thank you all for joining us tonight. This is the new member meeting for the 2021 school year. I want to open the meeting by saying I recognize that we're in very unique times, and my goal is to communicate to you everything as it is planned at this date, right? As of tonight, Monday, May the 11th, this is how we have everything planned. That's to say, as we've all experienced in our community over the last 2 months, that these plans could very well go in a different direction. but nonetheless, we want to communicate to you exactly as it's planned so that in the event that things drop away or things change, if nothing else, I can tell you in my years with the Coppell Band, the plans we're going to discuss with you tonight, they're all very much going to be the same every year for the most part. I mean, we in the band world kind of base things around when August the 1st happens, but other than that, it's pretty much a straightaway. So, without any further ado, I want to welcome you to the new member meeting. Today is Monday, May the 11th at 7 o'clock. My name is Mr. Miller. I'm the Director of Instrumental Music for Coppell ISD. I also serve as the Director of Bands at CHS. And I'm going to introduce you to the staff in a moment. But before we do, a couple of our students prepared a video for you. This is our students elect a president and vice president every year, and they've elected 3 outstanding individuals. And so I wanted you to have a chance to meet them. And so I said, hey, if you guys would be open to do a short welcome video, we'd love that. So hopefully this works great. It's just a little short, kind of 1-minute clip with Lily and Suchira and Shrey. So
welcome parents and students. My name is Lily Lee and I'm a marimba player in the drumline. I'm currently serving as your Coppell Band president.
Hello, I'm Suchira. I'm a flute player and I'll be serving as one of your vice presidents.
Hi, I'm Shrey and I'm the other vice president and I'm a tuba player.
We are so excited to have you here at our new member meeting.
So being in your position 4 years ago, we understand the overwhelming feeling you might have, but we guarantee you we'll do our best to help you with your concerns or questions.
Mr. Miller is covering the basis of this meeting, but if you have any student-based questions, feel free to contact us. And since we each cover a section in the band, based on what your kid plays, they can come to us anytime.
Thank you so much for your time, and we hope you enjoy our meeting.
Well, wonderful. It was good to hear from them. And again, I appreciate you joining me this evening as we trudge forward. So I'm going to start by introducing the instructional staff. Chances are, if you've been in Coppell for a while, you know who these people are. You've had the chance to meet them at some point in time. As I mentioned, I'm Mr. Miller. That's my phone number and my email. If you want to screenshot this page, please do. Mr. Caswell is our associate director, as well as Mr. Slovak. I think they may both be online tonight. Throughout the presentation, you'll kind of see them in the comments, I'm sure. Ms. Klontz is our director at CHS9, and the vast majority of you are coming into CHS9, and you'll have the chance to see and work with Ms. Klontz regularly. Ms. Chernow runs our percussion program. Chances are, if you've had a percussionist, you already know who Ms. Chernow is. She's been working with your students along with Mr. Wynn. And then Mr. Rummel runs our color guard program. Again, if you're involved in our color guard, chances are you've already met him. One of the things I always want to mention during our meetings is the idea about when I have a concern in the band program. What do I do as a parent or a student if there's something that's said or done that concerns me a little bit? My strongest encouragement to you is if ever anything is said or done that you're not sure about, I want to encourage you to reach out to us and let us see what we can do to help you to get to the bottom of something. We have nearly 500 students in our program, and while I'd like to think that all their interactions with one another are incredibly positive, I recognize that sometimes things are said and done that are maybe a little more teenager, middle school than we would like them to be. And so we're happy to tackle that for you, but always feel free to reach out to us. Now, in the same breath, what I'll say to you is I would love it if you would contact when there are compliments. You can certainly reach out to us as a band staff. We're happy to take that on, but I would love it if you reached out to our principals, our assistant principals, if you would reach out to superintendents and assistant superintendents, to school board members and city officials, and let them know the great time your child is having and the accomplishments that they're achieving as a part of the Coppell Band. I think that is also the strength of our organization, is not just the fact that we as a family are able to celebrate our successes wide, but that when things go on that are concerning or what have you, that we're able to circle things up as a family and work together to find an amicable solution. Let's first talk a little bit about band enrollment and a little bit about program advocacy and what is this program that your child has chosen. So, Mr. Miller, I get the question a lot. How many students are involved in the programs? In 2019 and 20, we enrolled approximately 425 students. This coming school year, we auditioned at the end of everything. We're a few more numbers left to roll in, but about 490. Of those, we have about 280 in the varsity program and about 210 in the JV band. How many students are there in the bands? Well, there are 7 concert bands. CHS hosts 5 of those concert bands. CHS 9 hosts 2 of those concert bands. Another question regarding advocacy I often want to address early in our conversation. I'll hear from parents as their child's beginning, some of them before their ninth grade year, but certainly headed into sophomore or junior year, they'll say, Mr. Miller, my child really wants to be in the top 5%, the top 7%, the top 10%. We have strong academic goals. How does band help with that? In 2018, which I haven't run the 2019-20 metrics yet, but in 2018, 24 of the top 5% of our graduates from CHS were in band. There is no other organization where you're going to find more top 5% graduates, with the exception of the National Honor Society, I think. It's an incredibly healthy place for your child to be. And the reason I say that is that they're surrounded by wonderful human beings. They're surrounded by the students that are at the very top of our school. And I think being a part of that and taking part in that involvement is so crucial to their growth and development. I say that not just as a band director, but my oldest son is a sophomore in college. I have a 7th grader. So, I've sat both sides of it. I've done the high school band dad thing. I'm back to being I'm a college band dad and now a middle school band dad, and so in that experience, I think my sons benefit so much, not just from the musical aspects of what they learn, but from what they've gotten academically by surrounding themselves with such incredibly smart people. So I think that's a real standout for us. Over 60% of students in the top 5%, this is based off of the last 3 years graduating classes, have a major activity. Sometimes I think students and parents may say, well, if I took a step back, if I only did academics, then my GPA would be higher. And our data just doesn't ever bear that out. So one of the things I looked at recently was, how does it affect your college choices? The students who have a major activity like band or varsity athletics versus the students who come into our programs and they just take classes. They take and they go home. Look at this. With a major activity on the left side of your screen, those are the universities that those students attended. And on the right-hand side are students that didn't have a major activity. This is 3 years worth of data, right? This is 2017, 2018, and 2019. That's just shocking to me. If it has a star next to it, that's a Coppell band student. It's just like when you put your child into a major activity like this, especially a nationally ranked program, you are setting them up as a parent for the greatest amount of success when they apply to college. Not because they're going to study music, but because their resume is going to be something that very few in this country can compete with. And I credit you as parents, because you have to make sacrifices to make this work. And I credit you for being able to do that. So let's get back to some practicalities. I'll kind of dip in and out of some of the more theoretical and philosophical ideas of our program while we talk about some of the scheduling concepts and other things that kind of rubber meets the road. I'm going to repost right now inside of the chat, since the chat's kind of gotten a little bit deep. I'm going to repost the link to the PDF if you'd like to see that and grab a hold of that. We have an early summer percussion camp every year. This year, as you might imagine, we're going to press the pause on that. Ms. Chernow's going to be in touch, but it's going to be mostly virtual sectionals as we get started in the summer, because this is often a summer camp that flows right out the last day of school. So this is obviously on pause. So she'll be in touch. The color guard sectionals traditionally are Tuesdays and Thursdays. What we've always said is if you're in town, come to the sectional. Obviously, we're not able to do those starting out immediately into June. And so Mr. Rummel will be in touch, color guard folks, about what those Tuesday and Thursday virtual sectionals will look like. We'll use tools like Zoom, things like that, to have your child come in and do some assignments and learn some new things as they get prepared for the year. So just be on the lookout for emails from those directors. Let's see. We do have now, so as I get into this part of the schedule, we are going to be talking about what I think in reality is going to happen. This could change. But as I told you, I want to explain it to you the way that it's intended. And then as cancellations and holds cause us to have to pause things, then we'll just do that. We have a late summer percussion camp traditionally. This year it's running July the 20th through the 24th. That's 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. as well as Monday, the Tuesday, 27, 28. Each day the percussion section breaks from 1 to 2 for lunch, and that's both JV and varsity drumlines who are rehearsing during that time. During the lunch thing, and this is a good time to talk to all the students, not just drumline, but color guard and band as well. During lunch, some students are tempted to say, oh, my mom's going to bring me lunch every day, or, maybe, and I'm not a big fan of this, they might say, oh, I have a junior or senior in my section, they're going to give me a ride to lunch. And I'm like, no, they're not. Your child needs to eat lunch with us. They need to be a part of our community. The vast majority, 95% plus of our students bring a brown bag lunch, and that's how they eat every day. So I would strongly advise as a parent that that's what you need to do for those days. And that'll apply to band as well. So tell me a little bit as we get into mandatory summer band, what happens during this time? Well, both the JV and the varsity marching bands attend mandatory summer band. And while hours may vary, we generally work from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on these summer band days I'm about to talk about. Now, I know as a parent, you might read that and be like, whoa, that's a long day. I promise your kids, especially their sophomore, junior, and senior year, especially after what we've just been through with missing some school, they are so looking forward to being able to get together and be in community with one another, with social distancing, of course, but to be in community with one another and to make music together and to get to make some new friendships. The dates are on our website, and I'm going to show them to you in just a moment. But if I go over anything today that you needed me to slow down for, please take the opportunity to look at the website. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about band registration. Band registration is an important day for us. It's when we fit our students into all their gear, their compression gear, their shoes, their gloves. We also have our parents go through and we do all of the emergency forms that we need, all of those things. And so that's going to be in this next slide, and that is so important. So here you can see Fundamentals Camp is how we begin acclimating students. So you heard me talk about 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and you're like, Mr. Miller, I don't see that yet. No, you don't yet. It's coming up. But we use July the 29th, 30th, and 31st for all students, for wind players, for percussionists, for color guard performers. We use those days to acclimate you to being outside. Some of you are great about being outside. You spend your whole summer riding your bike and swimming and going all over the neighborhood. Others of you spend some time in front of the Xbox and you not really an outside person. So we're going to very carefully and very slowly acclimate you to being used to being outside because we want you to be safe when you're out there. And if you're uncomfortable or if you're not feeling well, you're not going to learn. So we need you to be in the healthiest place possible. So we're going to do 8 to 5. We're not outside that whole time. In fact, I can tell you after lunch, we're never outside during these blocks. But from 8 until noon, we'll do some inside and some outside as we acclimate your children to being used to being outside if that's something they haven't done all summer. And it's important for their health and wellness that we get that going. On August the 1st, we have band registration. That's what I was just talking about. That day is really important. You're going to be in the school as a freshman for a total of about an hour, and we're going to give you a window of time based on your last name, maybe like A through F come here and G through M and etc. So you'll come in and you'll go through your registration process. You'll measure for everything. You'll fill out some forms. You'll take care of setting up all your payments for the year, anything else you need to do, and we'll go over all those things here as we get deeper into the meeting, but just make sure that day is cemented on your calendar, and I'll start putting out times pretty soon by class. But if you need a special time request, you can let me know. You can see as we continue, here are those days I was talking about. After registration, we are going to rehearse some on that Saturday, and then getting into that, there's the week. That's a pretty big week. The 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. That's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I don't know that we're going to use every ounce of every one of those days, and especially with what we're dealing with right now, I don't know what those days will look like, but what I'd rather have is have you schedule them and hold them, and then as those days draw closer, we as a community and as a school district can monitor how that's all going to go and make sure that your child is set up for health and set up for success. We have a couple of more days. We have that, that's a Monday, Tuesday, and then we start school that following Wednesday on the present schedule, and then a Saturday rehearsal. Again, I don't really know what those are going to look like. I'd rather block off, and my philosophy on this, I would rather, as a program administrator, block off a little too much time and then tell your child, you know what, we don't need you to come here. Or if we're expecting inclement weather, we might back off of something. I would much rather do that than underbook. And I don't deal well as a parent when a coach or a sponsor says, oh, we need you to come up and we had this day off, but now I need you. That's never a good thing. So as you look at this, you're like, man, Mr. Miller, that's a lot of time. It is, and we're probably not going to use every spare second of it, but I want to make sure you have it on your calendar that it's blocked off. And so that's kind of what those days flow like. So as you're thinking about orthodontist appointments, especially as you're getting back into the flow of that, orthodontist appointments, dentist appointments, haircuts, all the things that you're getting back into the swing of doing, just make sure that that's on your radar about all of these dates, and you've put them in your calendar. We do a social for our students. We've been using Hawaiian Falls the last few years, and we're certainly hoping that can go off without a hitch again. We do that on the 21st, and then we have one more day of summer band on the 22nd. It's a Saturday, and then we do a performance. We do both of our shows for our parents. I joke, I think that performance has gotten rained out 3 out of 4 years, but hopefully we'll get to have it. If not, we always go in the arena or the gym, and we'll play for you in there. But hopefully we'll get to have it, and it won't rain this year. Goodness knows we need all the time we can. So what does a summer band day look like, Mr. Miller? Like, what should I expect for my child? What should I prepare them for as a student, Mr. Miller? What should I be prepared for? Well, at 7 o'clock, the staff is on hand, and at 7:30, most of the leadership team is there. So if you commute to work and you need to drop your child off early, there's someone at the building. There's an adult at the building by 7 a.m. So if you need to drop them off early, you can. You don't have to be super early, but you can. At 8 o'clock, we begin the rehearsal. We're either going to be on the band field or in the indoor. Usually the weather at 8 o'clock in the summer is really nice. We'll stay outside once we've acclimated them on those days I was talking about. Once we've acclimated them, we'll be outside for those 4 hours. Right as about 11:15, 11:30, it starts to get warm, at least to my opinion. It starts to get warm, and so at that point, usually when we're ready to turn in. And then you'll notice through the hottest, we take a break from 12 to 1:30, and that's where your student can bring their lunch I was talking about before. And then you'll notice from 1:30 all the way until 5 through the hottest part of the day, we're inside. We have section rehearsals. We use classrooms for that. We have a group discussion where we talk about leadership concepts. We talk about life. We talk about choices. We talk about approaches to school. And so all of those things, we'll do that each day, and then we'll take a break. Now, sometimes parents ask me on this break, do I need to send food, or, how do I do that? Every kid is different. My oldest, who's a tuba player, he would absolutely eat another meal there, and nearly the amount of calories in another meal. Whereas I've watched students over the years just bring like a little healthy snack, a granola bar, some fruit, what have you, and they do that on the break. I think it's about whatever works for your child. Obviously, the first few days, I'd have them bring more than they want, and then they can tell you, oh, I ended up bringing food home, and then you can kind of have a sense on that. We do an ensemble rehearsal from 5 to 8, and just like I said, at around 11:15, 11:30, when it's starting to get hot, when we go out there at 5, it's pretty hot. For the first about 30, maybe 45 minutes, and then the sun starts to set behind the trees on the band field, or behind the stadium, and it gets fine. So we do a full ensemble dismissal at 8. It's very important to me that we end things on time. It's very important to me that we start things on time for your child. Now, by end things on time, what I mean is we stop the rehearsal at 8. There are still some things they might be taking care of. They put their instrument away or their flag away. They put their drum back. They might be helping. They might meet with their section briefly to talk over some notes from the day. They might need to come see one of us for a second. So I tell you, as a parent, you're welcome. Well, you're welcome to come watch whatever you want. We want you up there as much as you want to come see your child perform. But if you show up at 8 o'clock expecting them to be ready to get in the car, that's not going to be the case. I think 8:15 would be about the earliest once they walk back, because it's a pretty long walk back to the band hall and put their stuff away. It's at least 8:15. So just make sure that you're aware that we'll stop right on time. But it just takes a while for your kid to gather all their belongings, and we don't want them to hurry through that, because that's how we find flutes get left on the field and stuff like that, and we don't want those things either. So what do we wear for summer band? Well, I advocate light colored t-shirts, nothing fancy, white, light blue, light gray, light red, whatever you like, gym shorts, nothing heavy, cargo short type things, generally not any type of pant. Good socks. Don't come out there, especially without socks. That's a bad idea. With your tennis shoes, you're gonna get blisters. Athletic shoes, you don't have to get anything major. Just whatever you're comfortable in. A good, comfortable walking shoe is great. Hats are good. Some people like to wear, a regular baseball cap. That's kind of my choice. But other people wear visors because they're comfortable in that. Some people have more of like a bucket hat, like especially those Boy Scout crew, they like to go camping. They do that's great. Like, you find the hat that fits your personality and keeps the sun off your head, you're going to feel better, I promise. I tell students, if they're like, oh, Mr. Miller, I'm not a hat person, I'm not a sunglasses person, I'm like, put it in your bag. You might change your mind. You might be at 11:15 one day and you're like, man, I am uncomfortable. You have it there. There's no harm in carrying it. Sunscreen's really important. We want your child to make sure that they're using sunscreen every single day. We will take breaks during the sunny days to say, like, hey, everybody sunscreen back up, because we want to make sure that we keep their skin healthy. What do they bring? Well, they bring their instrument. They bring a water jug. I'm going to send an email, so don't go buy anything yet. I'm going to send an email with the kind of water jug. Some of them, the kids tend to bring like the Hydro Flask, like the very trendy water jug. Those really don't work great in the sun. You need the kind of old school 1970s plastic red. They come in like three colors. They're either red or blue or black. But like the Igloo cooler ones, they sell them at CVS and Walgreens and everywhere has them. You can order on Amazon. So I'll share that with you. Don't go buy it yet, but that's an easy way to get the water situation taken care of, and you don't have to be fancy about your water. You'll bring your music with you. Some of you scan it in, have it on your iPads, things like that. Others of you like to print it out, whatever's best for you. I always advocate some type of a backpack. A lot of kids are in band like those drawstring backpacks for summer band. Just they're real lightweight. You don't have a ton of items. You're not carrying textbooks or anything, so that tends to work real well. So that gets us into summer band, and really that gets us through what the end of the summer is. So let's you and I talk a little bit about the fall. So JV marching band and varsity marching band. Mr. Miller, what's the difference? Like, I know where I've auditioned and I know what I've placed into. What can I begin to expect? With the JV marching band, we rehearse 3 mornings a week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Whether it's what we call an A week or a B week, it's always 3 days. We attend 5 to 6 football games, not all 10 of the football games. The first 3 are almost guaranteed to be off. We attend 2 Saturday competitions usually, so it's not as many Saturdays as you might see with the varsity. And I think the JV is the best way for 9th graders to transition into band, because after a year of acclimating to that, students may audition to move up to the varsity, and some students may remain in JV. You can remain in JV for as long as you like, but usually after a student does a year or 2 in JV, they're ready to move up to varsity. I saw a question real quick that I'll answer about water. Somebody asked about those camelbacks. A lot of our hikers, our scouters like to use those. It's like a backpack that has a little tube. You're welcome to use that as long as it doesn't interfere with your marching posture. We do want to be able to see, can you stand up straight? And sometimes with the camelback, especially when it's full, some folks tend to kind of slouch a little bit. So we just want to make sure that you can stand up with good posture. So if you want to check it out, you're welcome to bring it if you already have it, and we'll take a look. But I wouldn't go buy one necessarily, but you're welcome to try it if you want. So here's a little bit of the JV practice schedule to get back to that. On the band field, we do 8 to 9:45, and I'll talk a little bit about how that works. I did put that Monday on there in gray. Occasionally, we'll have an opportunity for the JV to get in the stadium on a Monday afternoon. And so just so you're aware, if you're scheduling doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, you might want to steer clear of Monday afternoons. And remember, we're only talking about the first 9 weeks of school. But just for those first 9 weeks of school, kind of steering clear of that might be a good idea. So, all right, what's the varsity? That's the JV. What's the varsity? Well, the varsity rehearses 3 afternoons plus 1 evening a week. We rehearse the UIL maximum of 8 hours. We attend 6 to 7 football games. Again, not all 10. We alternate with our JV counterparts. We do 5 Saturday competitions. The varsity marching band, is ranked as one of the top 40 programs in the United States presently. You can see the national rankings on HornRank's website right now. Freshmen can, this is our new member meeting, freshmen can transition into the varsity program. Just be prepared. It's a lot. And generally speaking, if you're in there, this is something you've wanted and you've worked for really, really hard leading into this point. But I always want to make sure that I say that. We do have some freshmen that are holding down some varsity spots. The varsity practice schedule looks like this. On Mondays, we have a 3-hour block, followed by Tuesday and Thursday are 2-hour blocks that are right after school. Monday gives them a little bit more time. And then Wednesdays where we have project blocks, which is where, maybe we'll just ask a section to come. Be like, oh, we just need trombones and drumline today. We just need tubas and flutes, whatever that combination is. And we'll communicate that way in advance. But this goes with my philosophy of I'd rather have it on your schedule and me tell you you don't need to come. I mean, there was one section last year I don't think we ever needed in a project block. They just marched really well during everything. We never needed them for something. But then there are other times where we do. So just be prepared. We do have what's called the 8-hour rule according to UIL. That means that we cannot rehearse more than 8 hours in a week plus 1 hour for every additional performance. We abide by that whole. In fact, I don't really think we ever hit the 8 hour very often. More often than not, we're right up against it or right under it. But just be aware that it's there and be aware that all of my practices will have, you see where it says UIL 3.0, 2.0, you'll see that show up on the website too. I don't want anyone to ever think that we're trying to to go around behind the back of that system. We play by the rules fair and square. Eligibility is also a major concern whenever it comes to this. We watch eligibility very closely. We are a second set of parents to your children. We're constantly monitoring how they're doing with their grades, constantly monitoring their grades. Maybe more so than the kids even look at their own grades, we're looking at them. So if there are concerns, have no fear, you're going to hear about it quickly. Why do we sign up for 2 classes for marching band? Well, it's important to note that marching band counts both as your fine arts and it gives you a 0.5 PE credit. So you're essentially signing up for 2 classes and you're getting 2.5 credits out of that, which is awesome. We do it through a program in Texas Education Agency called the PE waiver. And it's really important that our students understand that after 2 years of marching band, they've satisfied their PE credits. Can we take concert band but not marching band is a question I sometimes get. And what I say to that and what Coppell ISD's stance on this is no, what we offer is a full program. It's based on a long arc of curriculum, 40 weeks of the 52-week school year and more of the summer of curriculum where students learn so many important skills through the marching activity as well as through the concert activity. Marching band is 1/4 of the year. It's the first 9 weeks of the school year. And then the next, second, third, and fourth 9 weeks are completely different. And we'll get into those. And we won't delve quite as deeply into because those are very similar to what you have been experiencing in middle school. But I want to make sure that we talk about these things because I sometimes get that question after this presentation. It would be like telling your biology teacher, hey, I know we're learning about cellular mitosis. I'm not really interested in that. I would rather stay home during those classes, but I'll come when we start talking about good stuff I like. And it's like, that's not how biology works. You have to be there for the whole class to get credit for the class. Band's the same way. It's all about being a part of this whole experience where we're doing marching band, we're doing ensemble, we're doing concert things, we're doing solo things, we're doing all region. There's a whole just run of so many exciting things that your child's a part of. Trust me, they want to be a part of all of it. And so I think learning to manage the time crunch is so critical. What does a school schedule look like? So, okay, we get out of summer band and we talked a little bit about after school and before school rehearsals. What is the summer? So here's CHS 9, which is, and I would say for new tech folks, this is going to apply to you as well. Generally, you're going to, and I'm talking about the days when you rehearse, so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Generally, the staff arrives around 7:15. By 7:45, JV leadership is on hand, and at 8 o'clock, we start the rehearsal. The school day begins at 8:40, but we just rehearse right through that because all of our students are in first period band. So we don't have anywhere to go because we're already there in first and fifth period band. So we rehearse from 8 o'clock all the way until 9:30. Now, if you notice, their next class doesn't start for a while. They've got 50 minutes until their next class starts, but we started rehearsing 50 minutes early. So as a result, what we'll do is we'll break and we'll have buses. Buses will be waiting over in the end zone. If you've been to the band field, between the band field and the tennis courts, there'll be 4 or 5 buses lined up. One bus will be going to New Tech. The other buses will be going to CHS 9. Your students will hop on the buses and they'll head over to the high school, to CHS 9 or to New Tech for the rest of the day. And the rest of the day, for the most part, is their regular day. They have second and sixth period academic classes, third, seventh, fourth, and eighth. You'll get used to the AB schedule, and then the school day is over and you're free to go. So that's kind of what the day flows like. I did make a note that CHS 9, if you make it into the top band, which about half of you have, when you get into the second semester, your schedule does alter a little bit because not everybody's in first period band all year long. So just want to make sure that you knew that, and we'll get more into that much later. So let's talk about at CHS, if you happen to be a new student coming to Coppell High School, maybe you're a sophomore, junior, or senior, you're moving in, what do you expect? It's very similar. Just note that the JV rehearsal ends, and then at the high school, the second period or sixth period class is when our third and fourth bands meet. We do have some ninth graders that come over for that class. Then we have a lunch break, and then you'll notice the first and second bands meet, as well as color guard meets on one of those 2 blocks. Again, we have students who come over to the high school for that as well, who've made the first and second band. The fourth and eighth period class are the full percussion class. I know we don't have the battery and front ensemble results posted yet, but there are usually a couple of freshmen that make it, and so we'll work with you on your percussion schedule there. School day ends, and then the varsity rehearsal usually begins again. That's Tuesday and Thursday. It alters from day to day, but I wanted to give you just a run of kind of what do our days look like and what should we expect. Now, I'm going to pause for a second to say to you that this next part of the schedule we're going to talk about has to do with the kind of the daily operations special events. So we've been talking pretty long here, about 30 minutes, about all of the details that you needed to know leading into the summer and the start of the school year. The thing that I love about high school band is that we perform so much. I mean, we are constantly performing. I feel like that not 5 or 6 days goes by in the fall where there's not a performance. Middle school band, you'd rehearse for 9, 10 weeks, and then you'd have a performance. Then you'd rehearse another 4 or 5 weeks and have another performance. High school band is fast paced. I told you when I came to your middle school, it's not better or worse. It's just different, and I'm sure you're probably ready for a different pace as you're a little bit older. And so, if you want to have your calendars out now, that's great. If you don't have a calendar out with you or have something to write, remember that you can find the presentation linked in the comments. You can get that there, and all of this is on our website. All of this is on our Google Calendar, so you can find it there as well. So we'll go back over here, and away we go. So this is performance, page 1 of 3. I'm going to just run through these quickly. We have football games on the 28th. The varsity is that one at Saxe. September 4, varsity McKinney. September 11, varsity LD Bell. And you'll see I put the location. The first game is against Saxe is at home. Then we're McKinney. Then we're out at Pennington Field, our home away from home. We're off on the 18th. There's not a game. That's a bye week is what we call that. And then we have the HEB drumline contest. That's just for the drumline students. And again, those results will be posted up soon, but that's at Pennington. On the 25th, we play Plano Senior, and that's at Clark Stadium. That's a varsity game as well. And then the North Texas drumline contest. Now, we're going to get into, I'm going to tell you, I'm not sure about how all this is going to work out. This is one of those we're in strange times statements. So just kind of bear with me on this. I've overscheduled us a little bit right now. So I have on Friday the 2nd, us playing Plano West at home. It's homecoming, and I have JV and varsity. And I know you look on the next day and you're like, wait, there's a marching contest there. I don't know that we're necessarily going to use that, but I do want you to hold that date. And I know the dance is there, and we'll work around that. We'll make sure that you can go to the dance. We may want to try and get in just a prelims performance that morning or something. I'll get more details as we get further in and talk with our students some. Again, this was something we had hoped to be discussing in April and May that we really haven't gotten to delve into to the level that we want to. So I just put more on this later. And for now, considering that date is almost 5 months away, if you would just hold it for me in your calendar, and I'll get you some more details a little later on down the line. All right, continuing on, we have the first JV solo game. This is against Marcus High School, and they're coming to us. And then the BOA Dallas Regional is the next day for the varsity. That's at Pennington Field. BOA stands for Bands of America. That's the nationally competitive circuit that we're involved in. There's a state competitive circuit called UIL. Many of you are familiar with UIL. And Bands of America is the national circuit for marching band. The JV marching band has a show at the Carrollton Tournament of Champions at Standridge Stadium on that Saturday as well. Look at this one. This is always a bit of an anomaly. On Tuesday, the 13th of October, is the UIL Region Marching Contest. It's just a Tuesday afternoon. The students will usually leave class after lunch. We'll take buses over to Birdville ISD's Fine Arts Athletic Complex, and we'll perform in Region. And just like your child did in middle school, Region Concert and Sight Reading, there's a set of 3 judges. They make comments. They give them a score, and you get a trophy, and you go home. So those are short. That's not a very long day, but just to make sure you know that that's on there. On Friday the 16th, another JV solo game as we take on Hebron. That's at Hebron, so out in Carrollton. If you'd like to do that one with the JV band, that's certainly a great one to go check out, and some good football and some good music. On the 16th, 17th, and 18th, again, this is probably why you see me overscheduled back on the Birdville contest. We're currently slated to perform at the BOA St. Louis Regional, or Super Regional, I should say. We went there last year, finished incredibly well, finished in the top half at a really competitive show. Right now, it's still on the schedule, and I would love for it to stay on the schedule. But again, we're going to be very careful going forward in discussing that and making sure that we're doing everything in our students' health and their best interest. So it's on the schedule for now. Again, as I told you, I've let things exactly the way that they are. I don't want to alter plans and weave things around and cancel things quite yet. I'm somebody who's very risk averse, but at the same time, I want to make sure that we're being careful to do things in their time and give our students as many experiences as we can in a safe way. We're playing Louisville with the JV. That's a home game. We have UIL area marching contest. This is a state year for the varsity marching band. The JV marching band is a non-varsity ensemble, cannot advance through the state, but the varsity can. And so we'll have area that day in Birdville again. And then you'll see on the 30th that the JV is at the game against Plano East, and that's over at good old Clark Stadium in Plano. So finishing out, I know this has been a lot. I'm sure you're not keeping up with all of them, but try to stay on as many as you need. And again, I've already linked you the PDF of this. BOA San Antonio prelims and finals are at the Alamo Dome. That's for the varsity. So while the JV is back there at the football game, we are at the BOA San Antonio prelims and finals, and then UIL State prelims and finals. So we're in San Antonio for those 5 days with the varsity. Again, who knows what the future may hold, but I want to make sure that I communicate the schedule as written. We have Flower Mound, that's JV and varsity at home on November the 6th. That is a home game, and that is senior night. So again, if you're a new parent, but maybe you also have a senior in our program, we're going to be honoring them that night. So that's a fun event for all the band to be at, and it's cool to have everybody together. Lone Star Drumline contest for the drumline finishes out the season. And then I always put on there a few playoff games. We don't really know what the playoff outlook is like. We've gone as deep as 3 games, so I just want to make sure that you have a good sense of that. So that's kind of where we are. That's about as deep in the playoffs as we've been in my years at Coppell, but certainly we'd hope for even more. That kind of gives you an idea of what to expect. So in total, as you look at the bottom, you see that the varsity does 6 games and 6 contests. The JV does 6 games and 3. Now, admittedly, you're like, Mr. Miller, you said 2 and 5 contests before. I didn't mention the UIL region one because it's not a Saturday contest, right? It's just kind of in there. So it's just a Tuesday evening quick thing. But I don't want to count it. It's very important, so I want to count it in there. We've just finished our audition round, and so I think it's always a good opportunity for us to just talk quickly about auditions and make sure that I'm gonna get my get my face off the screen for you for just a second. And so we care about your kids very much, and we're hired to give them the best musical advice we can. We assess them the best we can, and they're working harder than ever. But I know that auditions are emotional, and their emotions can sometimes cloud their judgment, and students' careers in music are always in a state of flux. Our auditions allow us to take a snapshot of what they're doing, and we consider a whole lot of factors in the audition process. How they've done in rehearsals. We talk with their middle school directors a lot. We look at their grades over the last few years. I can say safely that seniority in our program is never a factor in our decision-making process. We're never going to say, oh, just because you're older, you get ahead. It is all about making sure that our students are placed in an ensemble where they are challenged but not overwhelmed. It is becoming increasingly challenging to earn a spot in the varsity. Really, really hard. And so kudos to your child if they're there, and if they're not, it will come. Their time will come. But just continue to practice. And so it's important to have the conversation regarding their best reaction going forward to their news of how they've done so far. So parents, if your students have questions or thoughts, we would like for them to advocate for themselves. Right now, while we can't have, quote, face-to-face contact, I've had already 3 Zoom meetings with freshmen where we talked about their auditions. We talked through what they liked and what they did and what their goals are going forward. That is not only healthy student approach, but that's a healthy parent steering their child in that direction. So I think that that's wonderful. If your students, want to talk with me about their audition, I'd invite them to send me an email or any of the directors, and we'd be delighted to set up a chance to talk with them about their progress and how things are going. Okay, I'm back. So audition results are now completely posted. If there's any changes to your child's schedule that are a little goofy, the counselor will be in touch. The challenge process is player A is going to challenge player B if they need to challenge. And this is where a student maybe feels like their audition didn't get them where they wanted to be. We're not doing these until after August the 1st. And I've talked with your students about them in detail, but they can engage in the challenge process. If you have questions, you can ask me. I would say talk with your student. They can share some more with you. I want to talk about private lessons. I would say, I mean, when I run the stats in Coppell, 98, 99% of our students are enrolled in lessons. Summer lessons are a big deal, and especially that we're doing them on Zoom and your child has maybe some more inside time. I know my middle schooler does. Please, please make sure that they're enrolled and engaged in lessons. All the teacher info can be found on our website, so just look there if you need it. And please be sure that your child is engaging in regular lessons. Uh-oh, now my thing doesn't want to work anymore. This is what happens, Mr. Miller. So I'm going to kind of get into our next conversation. I'm going to have to flip off of this slide and then back to it, though, so just be patient with me for a second. All right, thank you. Our concern. Sometimes we hear that students are concerned about the time, and they're doing this. And I wanted to come back on this point. I think that when students go, I'm not sure how to manage my time, and I just need to step back and just focus on academics, I think it's a very dangerous paradigm. And I think as parents, when we give into that, it's not the healthiest way to look at things. I would do some research, because what I think you're going to find is your child being in an environment where they are a little crunched for time, where they are having to manage their time efficiently. I want my boys to experience that when they're living at home, so that I can help them manage those things and teach them as an adult how they should behave when they feel overwhelmed. I would rather them have that approach than go off to college and that be the first time they were ever overwhelmed by anything. I think that is a bad setup for us. I think our students need to experience a little bit of challenge, and I want them to experience while they're living at home, and while you can help guide them as a parent to make those decisions. Because I think that what they do in band is so valuable to their future. We recognize that not all our students will go on to major in music, but we certainly know that the lessons they learn with us are things they're going to carry on the rest of their lives. Sometimes people will talk to me about, as they're transitioning in, about doing band with athletics or AP classes or choir, debate, or act tech. And I'll say we have students in all of these programs, and they play vital roles in all these programs. They're leaders in so many organizations. If you, as you're making your way through your Coppell career, have a desire to go, Mr. Miller, I've always wanted to try cross country, or, what do you think about taking debate? You should do those things. High school is a time to figure that out. It's not a time to declare a major and say, oh, I'm just going to study science all the time. If you love science, that's great. But you have to find what your passion is, so that the rest of your life irons out in a way that enables you to find happiness. It's not a rush to get as many classes, as many grades, as many AP courses. Instead, it's about finding something that you love and then making a life from that. I think that's really what's critical about high school. And so hopefully I can encourage you to continue to give that some thought. I'd ask you to raise your hand if I could see you, but I can't. How many of you are going to New Tech next year? That's awesome. If you're going to New Tech, we have about 24 to 25 performers generally in our program who come over from New Tech each day. Mrs. Baddock, the principal, and Mr. Kennington, the counselor, are so incredibly supportive. Just know that if you're a New Techer and you need help, please don't hesitate to reach out to those folks. They are awesome, and they are incredibly helpful. So I've mentioned, I'm kind of getting to the tail end of this. I've mentioned a little bit about marching season, and you go, well, what happens after? I mean, you spent all this time talking about the first 9 weeks. What happens after? Well, the second, third, and the fourth 9 weeks, we transition into concert season. How often do students meet? Well, much like what you saw in middle school band, they'll generally meet once, maybe twice per week in a like instrument sectional. They'll work on all region music, concert literature. They maybe have a winter guard rehearsal if they're a guard performer, maybe a percussion ensemble or two. Those are the things that they're going to engage in. It's much slower paced the second, third, and fourth 9 weeks. And good for us, because that's when the coursework tends to get a little more challenging. So if I were to divide the year for you, this is what it would look like. July through November, marching season, as we just talked about. November and December, we're working on our all-region music, and we're getting ready for the winter concert. December, And then January and February is our ensemble festival and our midwinter concert. So you see, there's a lot of concerts and performances. February into April, February, March, and April, that's UIL concert and sight reading. And then April, May, and June, spring concert. We have our solo festival, and we prepare for next year. Okay. Um, as far as the color guard performers, I know we have a lot of color guard performers joining us. July through November is marching season. November and December, we're preparing for Winter Guard. We're learning the Winter Guard show. And then December into usually the first week of April is when we have the Winter Guard season, the competitive season of Winter Guard. And then April through June, we begin that preparation process again, just like the band students do, to turn into marching season. What do the sectionals look like? This is an older one. This is a couple years old, but this is kind of what one of them looked like. It had flute, clarinet, and oboe after school on Mondays, trumpet and horn after school, but Wednesday and Thursday were before school. We work with our students. If they tell us, oh, I take the bus every day, then maybe we need to do this. Or my mom doesn't work on Wednesdays, so maybe we can do this. We work with each individual section. We fill out what's called a conflict form. We put that into our conflict matrix. We figure out when we can meet with each section so that we kind of create the least disturbance to your life, and we can meet with them pretty regularly. The Winter Guard for your guard performers is Tuesdays and Thursdays. The JV Winter Guard meets 4:30 to 6:30, and the varsity has a little overlap there from 6 to 9. For percussion, it really depends on what ensembles Mr. Chernow assigns you to and Mr. Wynn assigns you to. But once you get in, you're preparing for the purely rhythmic concert, which is our percussion program concert. In fact, if you have a percussionist, your kid's been playing on it for many years. And so that takes place usually right before spring break. It's again this coming year. It's right before spring break. And then you can expect. I would say 1 or 2 days a week where you're staying after or coming in early to work on some percussion ensemble stuff in preparation for that. Let's talk a little bit about fees. For the JV and our new students, we generally estimate a band fee of somewhere in the neighborhood of $650 plus some necessary items, and I'm going to cover what all those are in a second. For varsity, it's a little higher because of travel, and I'm going to cover what those are in a second. But I want to make sure that we're talking about the fees early because I don't want you to be surprised when you get to registration. And so here's a little bit of what it looks like. The band registration is on August 1st, as I mentioned, and that band fee is all inclusive. I want to cover everything. I am not the band director who wants to reach out to you every other week and say, can you send a check for $15? Can you send a check for $20? Can you send a check for $50? I don't like that. I like the pay one price approach. You pay one price, and our treasurers for the booster, they want to do that as well, right? We want that pay one price approach. And so you can see that that's usually where the fee is. And then on top of that, we have marching shoes. Shoes are shoes. Some kids are done growing. Some kids are still needing new shoes every year. Depending on the age and size of your child, you'll know that. Same thing with the t-shirts, the Under Armour, those kind of things. That's all gonna vary as your child grows. They might need 2 sets. They might need 4 sets. They might get by. The set from their freshman year might last them all the way through. Every child's rate of growth is a little different. We do cover dry cleaning. That's a really important aspect, not especially in the times we're in now, but just with the marching uniform, it's warm, it's sweaty, and you want that to get dry cleaned. And our uniform moms do such great work and taking care of that. We do marching meals. We don't ever want, when your child is coming up for a meal after school or something like that, for you to have to try and get off work on a Friday if they have a football game and run food to them. We don't need you to do that. We'll take care of feeding them at everything. They'll always have wonderful, good, healthy food. We take care of all of our vegetarians. We take care of all of our vegans. We take care of all of our kids with nut allergies. We got it. It is a well-oiled machine. And I promise you will be so thankful as a parent that you're not trying to have to run them food. We also do gloves. That's just part of the marching uniform. And you can see kind of where that subtotal generally nets you. For the BOA fees for varsity, it varies from year to year. And as I said, this is a year where as much as I'm planning ahead for things, I'm also being kind of a little bit gun shy on this. I would probably estimate around $250, $300, but it could be a little bit more. I don't know that it would be more. It could be a little less, but just we'll keep you in the loop on that one. If your child plays a school-owned instrument, so you play a euphonium or a tuba or something like that, then you're used to that. You've been paying the school-owned instrument fee since middle school. It doesn't change. Even though in high school your kid often gets 2 instruments, it doesn't change. It's the same as it's always been. Our Band Booster nominees, these are the people who have been nominated. Now, our meeting, oddly, this year, our meeting is tomorrow night. Sometimes we've had that meeting before this meeting. This just happens to be one of those strange years. But we have a wonderful board that helps out, and we're going to talk a little bit about what that involvement is going to look like as my end of my meeting begins to focus a little more on the parents, a little less on the students. But students, hang with me. I got some more for you. So a little bit about the Band Booster. The boosters contribute thousands of hours amongst the 500 families that are a part. And why is it done? And this chart was made for me last year. I think Jerry Andrews, who's our outgoing president, made this for us. It's about engaging in your kids' music education. It's about helping the band achieve something. It's about keeping dues low for other families. It's about being a part of a community. So what can you do now? Well, you can download the calendar. It covers the whole year. It's on our website. You'll begin starting next Sunday getting an email from me every Sunday at 9 o'clock. You're going to be so sick of hearing from me, but you're going to get an email from me every Sunday at 9 o'clock. And in it, it's going to talk a little bit about the things that you need to know about the program to make sure that you have everything going forward into those next 3 weeks. We have band registration on the 1st, as we mentioned. We have a band booster meeting. In fact, we're going to have one tomorrow night. You can't come to it live, but you can certainly attend it on Facebook Live and see what's being talked about. And then you'll get emails from our freshman liaison constantly. I think Ms. Prakash is doing that. And she's already had a child. She has a senior now, but she has a freshman as well. So she's been through the whole program once and will be able to really help and answer questions for you and send you some useful notes throughout. But that's a good email to hang on to. What are your volunteer opportunities like? Well, we want every family to volunteer. We want you to find something that fits with what you like to do and to come be involved. You can help build props if you like to do construction work and like to build things with your hands. When it comes to home games, we need help loading and unloading, bringing items onto the field. You get a great view of the show when you come down at field level to watch. We need people to work in the concession stand. We need people to help with uniforms. The meals I was just mentioning. We need people to hand out water and Gatorade as the students come back into the stands. It's so important. And I know I say this to you. Your child is a teenager and they act like they don't need your help. And they, oh, mom, dad, you're embarrassing me. You know what? They really do want you to be engaged. They want you to be around for this. This is something that they love, and they love it when you engage in it. And I know sometimes they may act like they're embarrassed by you, but I promise they're not. I promise they love being around you. When it comes to away games, we need help with, again, loading things up. We need bus chaperones. We need people to help with water. We need all of those things. So there's always some exciting activity to do and something to engage in. When it comes to fundraising, that's another aspect of the booster. We do concessions at all kinds of events year round. You might just see us at football, but we're there at track, we're there at middle school football, we're there at soccer, we're there for just about everything. We host contests for the Winter Guard, we host solo things. What we would ask, and this is not a big ask, I don't think, is from each family volunteer a total of 8 hours over the course of a year, right? Find a night or two. It's really probably 2 events that you can do all of those 8 hours in. Find 2 events and please come engage. Don't be afraid to come in. We have parents from all different backgrounds. We have parents who were in band in high school and grew up around this and know it. We have parents that grew up in communities that have never even seen a marching band, that they come from places on the other side of the world, that this all seems just so different and unique and kind of strange sometimes. But you know what? We want you to jump in and engage in your child's life. And your child wants you to engage in their life. So please take us up on this. We promise you're not going to regret it. You can do, again, a couple of concessions things. You can chaperone. You can do Winter Guard events. You can help with solo contests, ensemble contests, whatever you like. We talked about logistics there with loading, uniforms, committee chairs. You can sign up to be on the booster board as you get further into the program. There are so many wonderful activities that you can engage in. I'm going to pause to mention this item here about charms. All of you have a charms account through your middle school. Now that we're home a lot this time of year with COVID-19, if you'd like to go online and complete your child's charms and make sure that it's all filled in, that's one of the things you're going to do at band registration. But if you've got some time now and want to knock it out, go log into their charms. account and get that done. It links off the middle school website, but we are going to graduate all those students to us, usually around July 1st, and they come into our Charms. I use that Charms account for everything. If there's an emergency and your child is suddenly ill, I'm going to look for your phone number in Charms. All right. If we're fitting them in a uniform and we need to know what size they wore last year, we're going to look in Charms. Like any details we need, Charms is our go-to. So be sure that you've updated Charms. I put a couple of emails there for you for our freshman liaison. These emails stay the same every year. So I think Zareen Pathan is getting them now, but I'm sure she would answer for you. And I'm sure that Ms. Prakash will answer for you as she takes over. But the freshman at chsbandboosters.com account is an awesome one to visit. Volunteer at chsbandboosters.com, another good one. That's how you sign up to volunteer for anything. And of course, you can always contact our booster president. That's Prez with a Z at chsbandboosters.com. I have a few more random notes and then I'm going to open it for questions. I'm going to say that because my broadcast is about 15 seconds ahead of you. So if you've thought of a question that I haven't yet answered, you can post it in the comments now. I see a couple of them that are there and I'm going to answer those. But again, if you need to post a question, this is the time. So marching band physicals. We started physicals this year. This current school year is the first time we've asked for them for marching band in the state of Texas. I'm going to tell you that that's on hold right now. I have a meeting with UIL on Friday afternoon, and we are discussing marching band physicals. So please don't go run out and get a physical right now. I don't need you clogging the healthcare system. I have a feeling we're just going to put a little temporary hold on that. But until you hear from me otherwise, please don't try and schedule your physicals. Some students, if they've been wearing traditional eyeglasses, they may want to have a sunglasses plan, whether that's some students do transition lenses. Some students have like a little kind of clip-on thing that makes their glasses. Some students, as they're transitioning to high school, choose to switch over to contact lenses. If that's something you've been thinking about, if you have an upcoming eye doctor's appointment and that's something you think your child might want to do, I just want to throw that out there because it usually comes up in the heat of summer band when there's never any free time and your kid's going, I wish I could wear contact lenses. I wish I could have like some type of transitions lens. You're like, I don't have time to go do this. So I mention it now in May so you can be thinking about it. Our website is updated constantly. I literally update it twice a week. There is no reason that you should if there's something you can't find, maybe I should say this. If there's something you can't find on the website, what I would tell you to do is just email me. It's probably up there, but if not, I have to add it because I try to be as comprehensive. It's a lot of information. So when you have some downtime and want to learn about our program, visit the website. We're going to share shows every week. Sometimes as a parent, you're traveling. Maybe you couldn't get to see your child perform that week. No worries. No worries at all. I put it all in a private YouTube link. I'll let you share them as we get to the end of the season, but early on when we're developing and learning, I would say you can use it for you, but once it's ready to share, you can send it to your friends and neighbors and relatives. There, just like Texas high school football is a big deal, Texas high school bands are a big deal. There are a couple of discussion boards out there. There's the Yellow Board, there's TX Bands, is probably the most popular one. You're welcome to read all the chatter about how Coppell's going to be this, and this is going to be awesome, and this is going to be... please don't engage with these people. We don't want that as part of our reputation. Be sure that you can read and troll, as they say, all you want. You can lurk, but don't start posting things that are going to get people upset and creating issues. I'm going to talk about initiation. Initiation is something that's gone on in Coppell for many, many years, and I don't use that word to scare you because that's really not what it is. Generally, our older students will welcome our newer students in the program by coming over to their house and doing a super early morning wake up and take them to breakfast, and maybe they'll do some team building stuff. It is always supervised by an adult. The plan is always approved of by the teaching staff. So if somebody reaches out, and you'll probably get an email or a phone call from a section leader as we get further into the summer, they may say, hey, we're doing initiation. Don't worry, there's nothing scary going on at all. It's really just a fun opportunity for team building. Our kids who participate in it absolutely love it. Like, they talk about it 3 and 4 years later. So I just want to give you a heads up as a parent that call's coming. I mentioned to your students in their results meetings that downloading GroupMe is very important. As parents, you don't need to do this. This is just for your children. We use GroupMe as a quick messenger app. Like a lot of teachers use Remind. We find GroupMe is a little more applicable to what we do. So we use GroupMe for students. So if your child hasn't downloaded it, they should, and they should watch their email, because they'll be getting an email very soon inviting them to join the flute or the trumpet or the percussion GroupMe, and then they'll join it. And that's a good, safe place for kids to ask questions. There are also adults in all of those groups. There's a staff member in every one of them, sometimes 2 and 3 and 4, private lesson teachers, to make sure that everything going on there is all okay and good. All right, so your questions, I'm going to look up here at my screen and see what you asked me. I'm going to change so you can see me. If you didn't hear me say it before, my other monitor's like up here. I'm not dreaming off into space or anything on you. Let's see. Dhruva asked me, are there re-auditions in December? Yes, Dhruva, there are. So we audition students, I guess I should say, twice a year. We audition students one time that we just did in May, and we audition them a second time in December. They play the all region etudes, 2 scales, and they're chromatic for us, and we resort them in the bands. We don't usually do a lot of major schedule changes, because usually in that short time, students haven't drifted super far into an upper ensemble, but we do a little bit of motion in between them. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that as a parent and as a student, that we do have a second round of auditions that goes on in December, and it's based on the all region music, which is yet another reason to make sure that you're in lessons and to make sure that you're taking care of business, so that when that all region music comes out, that you are 100% ready going forward. The next question I had, it's freshman liaison posting. You can always ask there. What is Charms? I find it on the Coppell Band website. So right now, your Charms is still linked to your middle school. And so if you can't find it, or if you're unsure how to log in, you can email your middle school director and say, how do I get into my Charms? Now, in Coppell, I can spoil the surprise for you if you just want to try to log in. You will need the school code, but chances are, if you've not logged in before, your login and your password is your student's ID number. That 5-digit Coppell ISC ID, it's their login and their password until you log in and change it. So if you need to get into Charms, you can go that way. Now, I don't know the middle school codes off the top of my head, but again, you could email Mr. Gray, Mr. McCutcheon, Mr. Lindquist, and they could tell you, our school code is X or our school code is this, so you can log in and change your Charms, or just update your Charms and make sure. Again, I would fill in everything. Give me an emergency contacts if something happened and were with your child and they were injured and they were sick and they were put every number in there that you would want me to reach out to, so that you're kind of all good with those. All right. Let's see. Do I recommend current middle? Lesson teachers. Thank you. What a great question. Thank you. When it comes to lesson teachers, what I'll say is this: you will be changing to your high school lesson teachers starting in June. Please stay with your lesson teacher through the end of May. In some cases, oboe, bassoon, a fair amount of trumpets, tuba, you might have the same lesson teacher all across, horn, whereas other studios have a change of lesson teacher. If you're not sure, look on our website, click on the lessons link, and you could see who our approved lesson staff is there. It's not that the other people aren't wonderful. They're awesome. It's just there are only so many flute teachers any one person can teach, and we want to make sure that all of that is divided out really evenly. Okay? So just so you're aware, that's what's going on with lessons. How do I do football and band simultaneously as a freshman? What a great question. So traditionally, what we've had is that the JV marching band, which is where most of those students plays, meets in the morning, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday morning. Freshman football meets after school. It does mean during the first 9 weeks some longer days for you. I'm not worried about that. Plenty of people have done it before you, and you will be just fine. But what you'll do is you'll come to JV marching band when it's JV marching band days. And again, your schedule may alternate with how you split that block and how the A and the B line up. And you and I can talk specifically once you get a hold of your schedule. And then in the after school sessions, you'll go into football and you'll stay on in football. The games don't ever conflict, because Friday night's varsity football, and usually freshman football is Tuesdays, Thursdays kind of situation. But again, it's very workable. And so as we get further in, we'll get further in. I see Miss Sanders saying we didn't use Charms at East. You may not have had access to it, but you have a Charms account. So you may just want to email Mr. Gray, and I'll shoot him a text at the end of our meeting to say, hey, can you share their school code? But again, I am 90% sure that your child's 5-digit login is the same for both. I also know at East you are set up in Charms because you're on mine. Like I can see it on the district one. So while you as parents might not be logging into it and using it, it's being used on the back end to track instrument inventory and things of that nature. So it really in middle school, there's not a huge need for parents to be on it. Some again, like Middle School West, I know has used it for many years. North is a little bit newer to it. East is the newest to it. So you may not be using it on the front end as users, as parents, as students. You're going to see it a lot more in high school. But in middle school, there's not a huge need unless you're traveling. I know like the San Antonio trip that was coming up, like that could have influenced things with Charms. But it's for us, we use it to track inventory. We use it to track uniforms, some of those kind of things. Mr. McCutcheon is texting me in the middle of this meeting to tell me that the West Charms info is located on the West Middle School West Band website. So if you have questions, Westies, you can reach out to him. I see somebody asking about GroupMe from Manager. I will double check. What they're talking about is students downloading GroupMe onto their school iPad. We had it cleared through Manager, and so I'll double check. It may be that your permissions are still set to your middle school, and so I will ask our technology office if they need to release those permissions so that you can get it. Because the high school students are able to get to it, but I could believe that they might have different permissions for middle school students. So I'll check on that and I'll find out how and when those permissions change for you so that you can get what you need. Well, great. I think I've answered yes, all of the questions. Well, I want to thank you for coming and investing the last hour, give or take, and 6 minutes with me. It's so wonderful to get to talk with all of you. I can't wait to see you in person and see all your faces. Again, my hope is that all of this works swimmingly and we are able to get back to some normalcy over the next few weeks. I really hope. As things change, please know I tend to be an over communicator rather than an under communicator. You're probably going to be sick of seeing my emails, but I'll continue to reach out to you as plans change and alter. We're working very closely with our school district, with the city, to make sure that everything is as smooth as possible as we're getting your children back in and as safe as possible. I'm a bit of a germaphobe myself, very careful with how we do this. And so we're going to be very slow and very methodical with how things reopen and what that looks like. We're going to work with our administration on the campus as well as the district level. So thank you for just being patient with us and placing your trust in us, is that we're acting in the best interest of your children. A lot of us on the staff are parents, a lot of us on the staff and incredibly value the relationships we have with you and treat your sons and daughters like our adopted sons and daughters. And so we're going to be very protective of them as we begin this reopen process. So again, I want to thank you for joining me tonight. It's been a wonderful chance to just talk about band. I love talking about band any chance we get. If you have questions, you can email me, and I'm more than happy to do that. If we feel like we need to set up a Zoom call or a Skype session, please let me know, and I'm happy to meet with you. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, and thank you again for joining me.